GOP Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma has written an apology letter to his constituents, specifically his Black constituents who understandably and rightly have been angered by all of the unfounded allegations of voter fraud. Now, Lankford happens to be one of the Republican senators who wanted to challenge the Electoral College votes. He was one of the first Republican senators who signed on to that effort. And when you really take a step back and you see what that effort was trying to accomplish, let's not make any mistakes. They wanted to disqualify and essentially throw out all of the votes in very specific parts of the country that just happen to be, areas of the country that most Black people live in, people of color live in, and so it would disenfranchise them more than they've already been disenfranchised through, all sorts of electoral laws Republican lawmakers have successfully passed throughout the years. Now, he realized that maybe this is gonna hurt my chances with re-election in the future. Maybe it could even hurt me with my donors. So let me send out an apology. Here's what he said. What I did not realize was all of the national conversation about states like Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan was seen as casting doubt on the validity of votes coming out of predominantly Black communities like Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Detroit. He also writes in this apology letter, after decades of fighting for voting rights, many Black friends in Oklahoma saw this as a direct attack on their right to vote, for their vote to matter, and even a belief that their votes made an election in our country illegitimate. And he also said, I should have recognized how what I said and what I did could be interpreted by many of you, he said, or how it could be interpreted by many of you. He also said, I deeply regret my blindness to that perception, and for that I am sorry. Now, of course, he was at the Capitol when the insurrectionists broke into the building and proceeded to riot. And you should hear a little bit of his speech on the floor. So let's hear it.
People in my state in Oklahoma want their questions answered, but they don't want this, what happened today. They want to do the right thing, and they also want to do it the right way. They want to honor the constitutional process, but they also want to have debate about election security because they want to make sure it's right, which is why it's an important issue that still needs to be resolved. Transparency in government just doesn't seem like a bad idea. Obviously, the commission that we have asked for is not going to happen at this point, and I understand that. And we're headed towards tonight, towards the certification of Joe Biden to be the president of the United States.
Now, let me remind you all that there were efforts in, providing additional funding to election integrity and ensuring that voting machines weren't connected to the internet, so they wouldn't be vulnerable to hacking. This was policy that was, drafted by Democratic lawmakers. And what happened once it got to the Senate? Did Republican senators who all of a sudden are so concerned about election integrity, were they supportive of it? No, they killed it. They killed it. They wouldn't even allow it for a full floor vote. Marsha Blackburn blocked it. So they were never concerned about election integrity. But before I go off, I do want to open this up to you guys because, clearly I'm not buying anything he's selling, but who knows, maybe he's persuasive to other people, I don't know.
This just reminds me of those Hollywood celebrities where they say something off the mark and their movie studio hits them up, sends them a text, and they're like, look, we might get hit at the box office, so you gotta dial that back. A lot of these Republicans are relying on corporate donors who, and let's be real here, a lot of corporate donors who have donated to their campaigns for years, they've been able to throw the rock and hide their hands. They're now saying this has gone a little bit out of control. We just wanted to pass some legislation, we're doing a bit of lobbying so you can support the types of things that we want to do to deregulate. We didn't know it was going to go this far. So I'm sure he got nudged, not just by his Black constituents. I don't think that's just what he's afraid of. I don't know his background or what he's been doing and who his donor base is, but I would not be surprised if that has a lot to do with his response right now. And he got into Congress around the time that a lot of Republicans were advocating for a redistricting that enabled a lot of the gerrymandering that we're seeing right now that causes voter suppression. So I am not convinced at all that he's just had an epiphany. He's been in Congress for a decade. He knows how it's been with the Republican Party trying to suppress Black people's votes and the votes of other people of color.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, especially when you consider the fact that his involvement in challenging the Electoral College votes was purely meant to be politically advantageous. Anyone paying attention to the election and all of the dozens and dozens of court cases that Trump's lunatic lawyers lost, like over 60, they lost over 60 court challenges because they couldn't provide a shred of evidence. But Lankford didn't care. Lankford decided, no, it's more important for me to appeal to Trump's base. So I'm gonna go along with this ridiculous narrative that I know isn't true because it's politically advantageous. So why would anyone believe that this apology letter isn't also meant to be politically advantageous after those riots took place? And I think you're also right in bringing up the issue with donors. I think that he is concerned about donors because he did happen to be one of the first Republican senators, of course, after Josh Hawley, to come out and say that he would also sign on to challenging the Electoral College votes. It's just absolutely gross and disgusting behavior because, again, I mean, I don't know if there's ever really been a time in America where these elected public servants saw themselves as public servants. Right now, what we're seeing is just this giant group of lawmakers who only seek to serve themselves and do what it takes to ensure that their donors are still on board. One other thing I'll just quickly mention before I go to you, Lance, is it's really jarring how well the stock market has done throughout the pandemic, but also on the day the riots took place. Like the stock market did not take a hit on that day. So all these, corporate donors that are now engaging in their own PR stunts, like, oh, we're gonna stop donating to these people. Yeah, there aren't really any elections coming up, and you're doing it for PR. Like I just feel like I hope most people can see through that. But Lance, I wanted to get your thoughts as well.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like the stock market demands blood sacrifice, is what I'm hearing. I don't think it helps Lankford's case that he kind of looks like Eminem was playing a racist prison guard in the Shawshank Redemption. But on top of that, it's so rich that all of these individuals like to talk about voter fraud and how much they're concerned about it and making sure that this is the most perfect election that's ever occurred in American history, when they do so much to suppress the Black vote in America. And that just seems to be a running theme. On top of which, it's also kind of hilarious that they downplayed mail-in voting so much as if it was going to be completely corrupt. There's all this evidence to suggest it's a bad thing. And then how did that work out in the election at the end of the day, right? I think the apology is hollow. I think it's opportunistic. And yeah, I think he's a ghoul. That's all I can really say on the subject.
And just for a little more context into Lankford's dealings, as I mentioned earlier, he is a senator from Oklahoma, and his biggest donor is, the oil and gas industry. That's where he gets most of his money, twice as high as his next biggest donor, which is retirees and leadership PACs. So I do think that he's concerned about some of his funding, and it's not just him. Lawmakers in general are worried because, yeah, some corporations have decided to target Republican lawmakers who decided to sign on to this whole ruse and the lie of widespread voter fraud. Others are like, no, I'm gonna stop donating, period. Doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. But guys, again, I just want I know I'm speculating, so let me just clearly label it as speculation. But I have reason to believe that it's not really about what happened in the Capitol. They don't want to face they don't want to be associated with politicians who are part of what happened, who encouraged and enabled what happened in the Capitol, but it's a very temporary thing. I guarantee you, Comcast and all of these other big donors who have made these strong statements about how they're gonna cut off ties with these politicians, we have short attention spans. I guarantee you that they are gonna go back to donating money to these politicians. I guarantee it. Because at the end of the day, it's their profit motive that they're thinking about. That's why they're doing this in the first place.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.